Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. Today, we have a serious topic. We're going to be talking about fighting cancer. And we have two of our Boomer Buddy regulars on because they both have dealt with cancer. So, first of all, let's welcome Kathy St. Martin. Welcome back, Kathy.
Hi, Rick. Good to be back.
And we also have Tere Walsh. Tere Walsh is a cancer survivor, and she has a story to tell about her experiences with cancer. Welcome, Tere.
Hi, Rick. Nice to be here again.
And I will add that I am also a cancer survivor, and I did not share my story on Facebook or anything. A lot of people do, a lot of people don't. I chose not to, but I am going to use this platform to talk about my experience. Like all of us here, we're doing this to help others who have gone through it. They can relate, and others that are going through it. And we want to talk with the loved ones out there that help support people that fought cancer. So, with that, I'm going to read the diagnosis that I had. I had lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma. It's a non Hodgkin's B cell lymphoma, and there's about 12 or 13 different forms, and that's the one that I had. Tere, you have had a couple battles with cancer.
I have 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with chronic myelogenous leukemia, which is not curable. And then about 14 months ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
And you have recently finished your treatments, and you had lost all your hair, and it's coming back, and it looks gorgeous.
Thank you. It's a trip.
Kathy, your husband, Mark, had cancer. What form of cancer did he have?
He had colon cancer that spread to his liver and lungs.
And unfortunately, Mark passed. And how long ago did he pass away?
Well, it's been 20 years already. So he was
20
46.
years. Okay, I'm sure the memories of taking care of him are still there. And bless those that help us who had cancer, because it's hard to do it alone, and to have a good support system is very important. I know for me, mine also is not curable. I am in remission now. They gave me bendamustine, that was the chemo that I had, and they gave me Rituxan, which was the immunotherapy. And that was the toughest part for me, was the immunotherapy, because I was allergic to it. 1 out of 5 people are allergic to it. And guess what? Old Rick Boy was allergic to it. My oncologist, he said, I can't see you with all this trouble. Maybe we'll give you the pills. And I said, well, what are the chances of remission with the Rituxan versus the pill? And he told me that 92% chance of remission with the Rituxan, with an average of 3 to 5 years of remission. And with the pills, I think it was 1 to 2, 2 to 3 years. And you have to take that every day. So I said, is there a way to get this in me? And he consulted with an allergist that he went to school with. And together they found a way to get that in me, because the side effects were terrible. And I'm not going to go into them, but it wasn't fun for me. And my wife, Sharon, was there the whole way encouraging me. So we chose the way to get it in me, and I feel great. I go in for my 6-month checkup in a couple of days. I'm going to get a CAT scan. So that's a good thing for me. Tere, how are you feeling since the end of your treatment?
Well, my treatment just ended about 3 weeks ago, and my final oncologist appointment was last Monday. I got the all clear to come back once every 3 months for that, and once every 6 months for the leukemia. And so I'm very happy. I'm very
Yeah.
happy about that. I have been poked and prodded for 14 months, and it's a good feeling.
You have been through quite a lot. You know, you lost James, your husband, James Walsh, and also your pet passed away. So you've had
Yeah.
a tough go. And we're going to talk about support, emotional
Okay.
support coming up. I want to go to Kathy. Kathy, now, when Mark found out about his colon cancer, when he got the diagnosis, did he have symptoms? And if so, what were they?
He didn't recognize symptoms. Maybe he had some, but he didn't recognize them. My family had been sick with strep throat, and he came down with cold symptoms. So he went to the doctor, and they treated him for strep because everybody else had it in the house. And then it wasn't getting better. So they did an x-ray of his lungs, and that's when they found that the cancer had already spread. And they moved very quickly and started treatments and tried a wide range of different chemo, and it just wasn't effective. So
Kathy, how long did Mark battle the
18
dreaded
months.
cancer?
18
18
months.
months. And I have to say that for me, the symptoms that I had is I had really severe leg cramps. I had night sweats. I would sweat through 5 t-shirts a night.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And my wife, in her wonderful way, said, go in and see the doctor. Because I know I'm being general here. It's a generalization, but guys just try to tough things out, and I'm sure women do too, but I'm a guy. So from my perspective, it's always, well, I got to eat more bananas, I got to drink more water. But it just got bad, and I had no energy whatsoever. I would go to work, and by 1 o'clock, I would literally feel like just going to sleep at my desk. And that wasn't good. I had a very good support team at work, and they said, "Yeah, go check that out." And when they found out, when I was diagnosed with the B cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, then you have to get in the right mindset, and you all know about that too. The mental part is part of the biggest thing to deal with. You have to be ready to take on this battle. It's really a battle for your life. How did you take the diagnosis, Terry, the first time around?
The first time around, I had no pain. I had just come back from Florida and I felt really good and I had had lots of sun and I went in for my yearly physical, which I recommend. And the next day, the doctor called and said, everything looks good. We'll see you in 6 months. Just one blood test was a little wonky. So they sent that to another lab. And then he called me 2 days later and told me I had it. And I honestly kind of wasn't paying full attention to the phone call because I had just come in the house with my grandson. Then I heard him say chronic myelogenous leukemia, and it's like, wait a minute, I have that? And he was saying, I'm really sorry, Terry. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Of course, you want to start chemo that night. I went in and had some tests and went to meet the oncologist, and very important, took someone with me because I knew I wouldn't remember this. But I felt good. The whole time I felt good. It just depends on people, I guess, and if you're having pain or not. I didn't have any pain, so
So for you, it was a physical where you found that out.
yes. Yeah, it
Okay.
was cancer of the bone marrow and the blood. I think about a week after I was diagnosed, they took me in and did a bone marrow biopsy. That was just to confirm it. And by
Hmm.
the way, I would wholeheartedly suggest, if you can do it, to donate bone marrow because it really didn't hurt that much. They give you drug. It just kind of felt like maybe I got kicked in the back for a week or so. That was it. And to save someone's life by doing that would be just a wonderful thing to do.
That's a good point, Terry. I
Mhm.
know I had that too, the bone marrow, and you get poked and prodded. And I remember I had a colonoscopy, and it seemed like you're right, you want to just get going, get that treatment, but they had to go through a lot of stuff to determine exactly what you have in the proper treatment. And I was very blessed to have the oncologist that I had and the allergist, and I'm just so thankful to them. It's kind of weird, you get into remission, and the team that helped you were so wonderful, you kind of miss seeing them. It kind of
Mm,
sounds weird, but they became your friends. They were
Yeah.
so good about taking care of you, and it seemed so genuine. And then from 3-month checkups, it went to every 6 month. And
Mm.
now whenever I see my oncologist, I'm so happy to see him, and so grateful. So Kathy, with Mark, when he found out and you had to figure out a plan of attack on what to do, how was his mental outlook?
Mark was a psychologist, so he was very thoughtful about how he was going to deal with. I mean, his emotions were extremely strong at first. His father died when he was young, not of cancer, but he always had a fear that that would happen to him. And
Yeah.
here we were living it. So it was hard, but he was determined to make every effort he could to see if he could kick this, because he had had a really serious illness 17 years before when we were first married. He had hydrocephalus in his brain, so the shunt got infected over and over again, and he had to have multiple brain surgeries, almost died many,
Oh
many
my.
times, couldn't walk or talk or eat on his own. So he had experienced a major, major health experience in his life in the past. He really felt in the end he was able to say those 17 years were really a gift because he was back to being totally normal. So it was really a miracle. You were talking about the colonoscopy. Mark hadn't hit the 50-year mark yet. And that's when it had been that doctors would recommend your first colonoscopy, right? So he hadn't hit that mark yet. Now they're talking about having people have those colonoscopies earlier. I think it's either 40 or 45 now. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, it's in the 40s.
but I have to stress that as a hassle as they are, it's so important to do that. Colon cancer is pretty curable nowadays if you catch it early. We just were unfortunate and did not catch it early.
Yep. And I do want to give a shout out to my general practitioner because when I was feeling the cramps and when I had the night sweats, he was up front and he said, "You probably have a type of cancer. And if it's the one I think it is, it's very treatable." That actually helped me out. And then when I did get the final diagnosis, it's like, all right, what do I need to do to win? Having played sports, been through a competitive environment growing up, Kathy, we did a show on that. I said, okay, what do I have to do to win? So I tried to learn as much as I could. And I just decided I needed to have a positive attitude and say I'm going to win. And then, of course, all the prayer horses came out. I believe in prayer. That came out in full force and helped me, along with friends and relatives. And I asked my relatives not to put anything on Facebook because I didn't want to have to, I didn't want it to be a pity party. I wanted it to be a focused attempt on me to get better. And so that's what I did. And I don't know, Terry, how you handled it when you went in for treatment, but that's how I did. I said, I'm going to be positive.
Yeah, I thoroughly, thoroughly positively agree that positivity really helps you get through it. You've got to be positive and you've got to not withdraw into yourself. I never, ever, either one of them thought I was going to die or thought I couldn't do it. It was like, let's get this done. The second time's kind of deflating when you hear you've got something again. But the first time I kept working and working, and unfortunately, I got really tired from that. And I did take a short term disability, and about 3 days after I went into that, I went in remission. And I thought, oh, I can go back. But I thought, no, stay home, rest, just make sure everything's good. And a good support team, like as Kathy was, a good support team is key. I also did not tell anyone on Facebook because it's just easier that way, easy to deal with.
You don't have to answer people's questions. And a lot of people are being concerned and they want to do what they can, but you really had to focus. Yeah, that was an experience that it's kind of weird to say, but I'm kind of glad I was able to go through it. I'm not glad that I have cancer and it's not curable. I'm not glad about that, but I'm glad because it showed that if you have a positive attitude and resolve and a good support system, you can do just about anything.
Absolutely.
And also the health team was fantastic. I want to point that out again. But financial worries is a big thing about having cancer too. That's something that doesn't really get talked about. Financially, it is so draining if you don't have insurance or good enough insurance. It can just take your possessions away. Hopefully people out there, that's not happening to you, and wish the best for anybody going through that. Let me go back to the managing the emotions after the treatment. Now, Mark had 18 months of treatment. Was it continuous?
pretty much a couple times a week he'd go in, and he was really good about thinking of ways to try to help with what he was feeling afterwards. He'd ask the doctors about what's the best kind of food to eat to help my stomach and upset. We'd go to a movie right after or something, just a comedy, because laughter helps you feel better.
Yeah, yeah,
Also,
yeah.
that kind of thing. He worked until probably close to Thanksgiving the year that he died, and then he died in December. But his work was really important to him. He was a school psychologist and he taught at St. Cloud State. And he loved both of those jobs. Plus our kids, our kids kept him active as long as they possibly could. But he tried to be really positive too. But it was hard in the end, for sure.
It's amazing when you're done, when people hear you're in remission, that's great news for sure. But guess what? A lot of your body was destroyed, you know? And I know for me, my strength was just still sapped and I didn't have any muscle. Just moving around, going up and down steps was still a chore. You had to build all that back up. And I know for me, I did not want to feel that way. And I didn't want to have a pity party. So I just kept working hard. But you also have to listen to your body. You can only push it so far. But if your daily chores or daily things that you need to do get to be too much, just say no to some of it. You got to take the time for you to recover. That's an important thing. Don't push it too hard. Terry, you're fresh off of that and you know better than anybody because you're living that right now. How are you doing and how are you coping with it second time around?
Everybody says, "How are you?" And you go, "Oh, I'm fine." But it's just an normal answer. I am very weak, as you said. And this happened 5 weeks after James's celebration of life. I'm home, I'm living alone with the dog, and it was like, what am I going to do? And my girlfriends just jumped right in and they were absolutely wonderful. And my neighbor, and they took me to all my appointments and the surgeries I had. They took me to my surgeries and the chemo I had. I mean, first time I went to chemo, it was supposed to be like 4 hours, and my girlfriend Patty went with me, and it was 8 hours. And she sat
Wow.
there and kept me positive. And now I think people hear that it's gone. I did the lumpectomy and it's gone, but I'm still, I sleep like 12 hours a day some days because I am just weak.
Yeah.
I'm still very tired. And when you ask them if you ever get cancer and you're in the oncology office and you ask them a question like, when's my hair going to grow back? When's my energy going to come back? You will get the answer, well, it's different for everybody. Because they don't
Yeah.
want to be tied down to anything. And truly, it is different for everybody. And I look good now and I feel good. Not only lost my hair starting after the first chemo, I ended up with a walker. I couldn't walk without the walker. I fell numerous times. Finally, I was
Hmm.
sitting in the living room like you, Rick, and I thought, if I don't start getting up and learn how to walk without this thing, I'm going to be in a wheelchair or with a walker the rest of my life. And so I started walking without it and kind of hanging on to walls as I was going. I'm glad I did that because now I can walk without a walker.
Yeah, I looked at the Mayo Clinic, what to do afterwards, after your treatment, and you just said it. You got to take care of your body. You got to focus on getting healthy. You got to eat good. And I've always battled with that because I'm a big junk food guy, but I have pretty much eliminated soda pop and cut back on sugars. I'm trying to take care of myself better. Basically, your body, it's going to take a while to recover, like we've been talking about, but you got to go through all the processes to become healthier. And it's important to go to all your follow up appointments to make sure that everything's still going on schedule. Or if there's something that's happened, you get it early enough where you can get some corrective measures taken and also take all your follow-up tests. And I'm actually looking forward to mine this week. It's been 6 months, but I want to see those people again. And hopefully there's some good news, and I'm confident there will be. Another thing, it's important to be open about your fears, express your concerns, because Terry, you're chronic and I'm chronic. When's it going to come back? What does this ache in my body mean? Is it coming back? Is the remission over? This cough I have. There is a fear in there, but the fear kind of gets better in most people until it finally happens again. But that fear is real.
I'm a pretty faithful person, and Mark too, he was. We really had Rick mentioned the power of prayer, and that makes a huge difference in being able to cope, whether in our case, Mark was going to die or not. Our pastor early on, right after the diagnosis, had a prayer service for Mark. And so family members and some friends came to a regular Sunday service, but there was a portion of it that was about Mark. And we were Sunday school coordinators at our church too. So people knew us well. So afterwards, we went to lunch with our family, and all of a sudden Mark pipes up and says, "Well, I am so excited. I'm going to see the King." And the whole table just went total silent. And we're like, "What?" At that point, we had no idea whether he would live or not, or do any of us really, but then he looks at his brother and sister-in-law and said, "Thanks so much for the tickets to BB King. Kath and I are going to have a good time."
Humor is so
Oh,
important.
it,
Mark,
Yeah,
Mark, Mark, Mark. That was awesome, Mark.
it was awesome. It was really good. But then in your last discussion here, Rick, I just met with some of our college friends from Morris, and we're all in our 60s, early 70s. And one of them had been reading a book, and she said it was kind of silly, but somehow there's a box and you get as a gift, and you can choose to open it or not. And when you open it, there's a short string and a long string. And if you get the long string, that means you're going to live long. If you get the short one, you're going to be living short. And then the question becomes, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to know that you're not going to live long, or would you prefer to know that you have a long time to do the things that you'd like to do in your life, and how might that affect you? And just even at our ages as baby boomers, that's something to think about, I guess. What are we doing in our life now based on your diagnosis? Are you doing things differently now, both of you? I don't know what you would think.
I'll go first.
okay.
Yes. Yes, I am doing things differently. This podcast is something that was kind of born out of what I went through, because while I was laying there in pain, I couldn't sleep, all the different drugs you're on, and your mind races. And Terry and Kathy, you both know my mind doesn't shut off. The gift that I got from having cancer is that now I'm trying to be a better person, and I'm trying to just make somebody's day. I'm putting it that simple. Whether it's one person, hundreds, it doesn't matter. Just try to make somebody's day. And I appreciate every day. Every day is a blessing. It's not just a saying. Every day is a blessing.
I will agree with that. I am also trying to be a better person. I always tried to do, when I was working, like random acts of kindness for people and try and do like 5 a day. And now, sometimes I don't see anybody because I'm not working, but I'll try and text somebody I haven't talked to for a long time, or give someone a call, because some people were very nice to me. Most of them were nice to me. Some people just dump you like a like a bag
Yes,
of garbage. They probably don't know what to say. They don't, you tell them you have cancer and they are gone. You never hear from them again. Most people are wonderful, and what can I do? And that's great, but I try and stay positive, and every day is a gift, and I don't think I'd want a string. I
I
don't give
agree.
me a box with a string in it, because I don't want to know.
It's amazing what you go through after cancer treatment. And Kathy, you witnessed that with Mark, but you're self-conscious about your body and what you're going through, weight loss or hair loss. I kept my hair, Terry,
Of
but
course.
the weird thing is it got dark. My hair got dark again, but now it's gone back to gray pretty much, but that was a side effect that I had along with weight loss. I weighed normally about 165 pounds before the cancer. I weighed 149 with the night sweats and all that at the lowest. And now I'm at 184.
Mhm.
So I gained some dad weight or whatever you want to call it, but I need to get a little bit off, but overall I feel really, really good. But the self-consciousness is a real thing. Self-worth gets under the microscope. I only had one time, Terry, where I had a pity party for myself, and that lasted about 10 minutes.
I don't know that I've had one for the cancer. I had quite a few pity parties, even to this day, with losing James.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he did not have cancer. But I'm going to ask Kathy this when I don't know if Mark was in the hospital. James was in the hospital when he passed away. And you walk out with this little rolling cart with his possessions on it, and you walk outside and traffic's still going by and people are just going about their days, and I just wanted to scream, I just lost my husband. And
Mhm.
but and life goes on for everybody. They don't know. That was difficult for me for James.
Mark was at
Oh, okay.
home.
Okay.
So, and he died during the night. So I had to, well, like I called our pastor, who is a good family friend, and his wife is a good friend of mine. They came over right away. Some really close friends came, and then we woke up the kids to tell them. That was hard. And then I had 4 kids, ranging from one in college to a 10-year-old. I was really had to be busy and focus on their needs at that point. So
Yeah.
it took a while for me to, even now that I have no one at home, it's very different for me now that I don't have anybody home anymore. So,
Yeah. That's difficult.
yeah, my dad died of cancer also. He had pancreatic cancer, and I was 14 and he was in the hospital. This is in the 70s. He went in for stomach surgery and they found the cancer, and then it had gone to his lungs too. But back then, they didn't have the options that they have now for treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And so he died very quickly. He died a couple months later and was in the hospital pretty much that whole time.
When I went to Minnesota Oncology, and they were awesome. They were wonderful. When you go in, they give you a notebook, a binder, and it tells you what to expect. It goes through everything, radiation, chemo, your doctor's appointments, what to expect. And bring that along to your doctor's appointments or your chemo, because there are certain things you can, if you have the question, it will answer it. I read through it numerous times and it was very helpful. One one nurse gave me a little tidbit, and honestly, you don't think it's that important and you laugh. It turned out to be really true. When you lose your hair, you lose all your hair, so you lose the hair on your arms, and for some weird reason, I did not lose my eyebrows, but I lost everything else. But you lose your nose hair. Now,
Oh,
nobody
Oh,
thinks about this, but she
sure.
said, always carry a Kleenex, because if your nose starts running, which I guarantee it will, you have nothing to stop it. It just comes. So I'm always, all my pants and shorts and skirts always have Kleenex stuffed in the pocket, which I have to remember to take out before I do the laundry. I just remembered that, and to this day, it has not come back. So I am still walking around carrying a Kleenex.
that's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
I have that binder too, or a similar one. I went to North Memorial Cancer Clinic. That binder has been very helpful. And some of the medication I took, I could not sleep. And I mentioned that earlier. One of the ladies there said, "Don't fight it. If you're not sleeping, put on a TV show or something and, occupy yourself or have a notebook and write things down." And that was a good tip for me. Yeah, really appreciate that advice.
When I went through chemo, and they talk about it in the book, I got neuropathy. You
Mm.
can put these, I can't remember what they call them, like ice slippers, neuropathy slippers, and they have ice packs in them. So they freeze your feet so the chemo doesn't damage it. I also had hand gloves that had ice in them so they wouldn't damage my hands. It didn't work for me exactly, but from my top knuckle up, I cannot feel my fingers and I can't feel my feet at all. So I walk around now and it feels like my feet are wrapped up, in like six ace bandages, just all bandaged up. I had to learn to write again and it's not pretty. It's
Mm.
Mm.
looks nothing like how I used to write before. So tomorrow I have an appointment with a neurologist to see what we can do if we can get this fixed. And so there's lots of side effects. Some people don't get them, some people get all of them, and it's different for every person.
No, see, now you're doing it.
It's true.
Yeah, so there's other things physically that have happened from the treatment.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about having like chemo brain or chemo fog.
Yes, real thing, right, Terry?
Yeah, yeah, twice. It's such a weird thing that all of a sudden you can't remember things that you've known all your life or people you've known all your life.
It does get better, at least it did for me, but I still find it a convenient excuse in awkward situations.
Yes. Yes. Agreed.
One thing we can all agree on, whether we're cancer survivors or we supported a loved one that had cancer sucks. Again, there is help out there. There's support groups for people that have lost loved ones. There's support groups for those that are recovering from cancer and also who have cancer and are fighting it right now. By us doing this show, ladies, I hope that the listeners and viewers out there have found some things relatable, found some tidbits that will help them. Again, I think the most important thing is go in, get checked out, get that colonoscopy. Like Kathy said, it stinks, but boy, it's important to do that and get your checkups and take care of yourself. And there's people out there that love you and are willing to be a support to you and take advantage of that as well. And any other bits of advice, ladies, you want to mention, go ahead.
If you know someone who has cancer, reach out to them, reach out to their supporters like Kathy, their caregivers, and anything you can do. Just go sit and read a book, just go sit and watch TV with them. Reach out to help these people because it means a lot. It means a lot to us.
That's right. I can't thank so many people enough for all the support that we got at the time. People came and did yard work or whatever we needed. They were there. So if you ask me, what can I do to help? It was hard for me to come up with those kinds of things unless I were to ask someone to give my kids a ride to their sporting event or whatever. But if you just say, "Hey, I'm coming over, bringing you a meal," or coming to haul your leaves away or whatever, that is very helpful.
We hope that our listeners and viewers want to contribute any thoughts or experiences they had battling cancer or caregiving for a loved one that had cancer. Please comment below on YouTube. We would love to read them and see what you think. And hopefully, we help some of you. And if you want, if you're listening on one of the audio apps, send an email to me at myboomerbuddies4, the number 4, myboomerbuddies4 at gmail.com. You're all a family to us here at My Boomer Buddies podcast, and we love it when you participate with us. I am so grateful to these two Boomer Buddies, Kathy St. Martin and Tere Walsh. And we're going to do more shows. We usually do TV shows or music or something, other topics. We felt that cancer was an important topic for us to visit today. For Kathy St. Martin and for Tere Walsh, I'm Rick Reed for My Boomer Buddies podcast. Until next time, we'll see you
Around.
The block.
Terry Walsh's husband, the late great James Walsh, was a famous musician. He played in the band Gypsy. And one of James's last requests was to try to keep his music and love of music alive. So Terry has a limited edition poster. It's called James Walsh Then and Now. If you're interested in getting one, go ahead and email her at stu854@hotmail.com.
If you enjoy this podcast and are viewing on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button on your screen, and share it with your friends, and feel free to comment below. You can also hear us on Spotify and Buzzsprout. Feel free to email comments to myboomerbuddies4@gmail.com.